We're good. Okay, hey guys, I'm sorry we're about 3 minutes late. It's 7:03 on Thursday night, June the 6th, 2024, the 80th, I hate to say birthday, remembrance.
Anniversary.
Yep. Of D-Day. And we are going to talk about that tonight. We're going to give you a little bit of news from the industry. We are going to highlight some of the main firearms from D-Day. And then, for you guys who don't know, it's my good friend Kyle Lynch. He is the CEO and president. Is that right?
Yep.
You got a big title.
That's it.
From Rifle Speed. And if you don't know what Rifle Speed is, hang on, because you're in for a ride. It's going to be great. I will tell you that our custom shop is adopting this product for everything that we do, or it's concerned.
For gas guns.
For
Yep.
gas guns.
Yep.
With gas blocks.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be amazing. Kyle's also going to help me talk a little bit about D-Day, and I just want feel at home, brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've been here before.
Right on.
Feel free to jump in, whatever. But tonight, the big question. Tonight is sponsored by FAFO. You know why? Because the Axis Forces FAFO.
There you go.
And so did the Japanese.
They did.
They did.
They found out.
They found out quick. And I think it was hot.
Yeah, a little more.
So, guys, we're drinking FAFO tonight, which, it breaks a 3-week streak. We actually drank, I drank Raptor for 3 solid weeks on the show. And we'll probably have another cup before I go home tonight.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Because that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
But the FAFO, y'all forgive my French, but this is the kick-ass coffee. If you want to feel like kicking somebody's ass, you get some FAFO.
John Miller said, "Hi guys, sounds like a good night of info."
Oh, yeah.
Hey, John. Fingers are still crossed for you, brother.
Yes.
We're looking at like every 15 minutes. So, anyway, we got a lot of ground to cover tonight, so we're going to get right on into it. A little after midnight on June 6, 1944, the naval bombardment started on the coast of Normandy, France. We had a 50-mile section of beach that was sectioned off into 5 different sections. That was the target, and we started with the naval bombardment around just a bit after midnight. Around 06:30 is when the amphibious landing began. So, the invasion of Normandy, it was basically the beginning of the end for the Axis forces. It was the battle, it was the event that let us get a beachhead, let us get a spot in the continent.
Operation Overlord.
Yeah. Or as D-Day was called, Operation Neptune. Which all folded into one big battle plan.
Yep. Invasion of Europe.
The cool thing about it is people don't really realize, they know today we use complicated battle plans, and even with SWAT teams, for example, getting ready to serve a warrant, that they take all these factors, weather, moon, this, that, into consideration. They don't realize we were doing this in 1944.
Oh,
yeah. The planners, the Allied planners, they had requirements that had to be met for the operation to go forward. Things like the phase of the moon, the tide, the time of day. So with these requirements, there was only like a handful of days each month that the operation could be started. And even though the wind was against us on June 6th, the decision was made to go forward. And like I said, we hit 5 different sections of beach, 10 mile, each one 10 miles long for 50 miles. That was Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword were the 5. The landing had to go forward because of all the factors. Even though these high winds were blowing the landing craft east of their desired landing point, so they couldn't, they weren't able to get in and hit with the precision that they wanted to. When the Allied forces landed, guys, they were under heavy German machine gun fire. If you've never seen an MG-34 in person, let me assure you, it's humbling.
Oh, yeah.
And if you ever seen one go to work, it's even more humbling. So they came in, they're under heavy machine gun fire, and it's coming from above. So they're on the low ground. The last place you ever want to be in a fight
No cover.
is in the open, on the low ground, and the enemy encamped on the high ground, undercover. Absolute worst case scenario. And these guys, 6:30 in the morning, are pulling up. They know they're going into that, and then when they get to where they can see the shore, right? There are freaking landmines everywhere. There's wooden stakes, what they call metal tripods, which was these 3-legged or steel tripods, 3-legged kind of sharp things that look like they tumble, kind of look like a 3-legged jack.
Almost like a jack.
When you play jacks as a kid.
Yeah.
Had this stuff all over the beach. So it's not like you could get on the beach and then try to run up close to the cliffs, to get out of the machine gun fire. Well, that wouldn't happen. The beach clearing guys had a nightmare. And the whole time they're trying to clear the beach so the other guys can come on. Landmines are blowing up, bullets are hitting. Your buddy that was right beside you isn't there now.
Yep.
You got barbed wire spread across the beach. Guys, these guys went into a living hell. They went into they charged and went head first. I mean, it was a red laced hell on that beach. You couldn't get it cleared fast enough for the rest of the guys coming off the landing craft. So you had some backup happening at the landing craft. And understand, the landing craft, just by necessity, were in range of the heavy machine gun emplacements. So not just the guys on the beach. You got machine guns trained, they're hitting down here on the beach. But then you got guns shooting into the landing craft.
The landing craft where you're grouped up.
And there's nowhere to go. I mean, that's just a funnel. That's just a death funnel.
Yep.
I can't imagine what that day would have been like. I mean, shot at, that kind of thing, but that's nothing. I mean, literally, it's nothing.
Oh yeah, there were units with more than 90% casualties in this
It's
operation.
You're just, you don't know if you're gonna make the next step.
Right.
How many guys, were on the landing craft and got shot, fell off the landing craft and drowned.
Or drowned, yeah.
Because they got so much stuff on them.
Yep.
That the bullet may not have killed them.
Yeah.
But between blood loss and the weight and the shock,
Right.
they drowned.
Yep. Lost their weapons, had to throw their gear off to not drown, swim to shore, and now you're there in this hell with nothing.
Yeah, how many times, when you listen to the stories of the guys that were there, that were doing the fighting, would talk about that, having to drop their gear and go up and try to pick a rifle up off
a casualty. Yep.
But I mean, what can you do? You got to fight on.
You got to keep going. Yep.
Because those bullets don't care about your feelings.
Yep.
And guys, yes, the intensity of the fighting, that level of intensity was June 6th at the beach landing. But this did not end on June 6th. Okay? This fight went on for days and days. You know, the idea was to liberate certain French cities on that first day and hook up all five beach sections and create this 50-mile corridor. And we didn't even get those linked up, those 5 beach sections linked up till 12 June. Before we had that 50-mile stretch cleared out. And this guys, they were doing stuff that they really weren't trained for. We were a battlefield military. Okay? Up until the late 80s and into the 90s, we were a battlefield military. And now these guys are in there doing the kind of fighting we do now over in the Middle East, Afghanistan, that house to house clearing, you know, urban combat. That's what was going on in France. So you didn't get these beach sections linked up until 12 July, and you didn't even get all the towns that they wanted liberated, cleaned out until 21 June. I'm sorry, I said July. 12 June.
12 June. Yeah.
12 June.
A week later almost.
Right. But we didn't even get these towns cleared out and liberated until 21 June. So these guys, that's 15 days of some of the most intense fighting that one could imagine. I don't know that I could imagine it.
No.
And these guys were getting shot, getting patched up, grabbing a rifle, and going back. It ain't like, oh, I twisted my ankle. You know,
Right.
Oh, hell no. I got 3 bullets in me. I can still walk. Give me a gun.
Yep.
And it wasn't that uncommon. That's the thing. That was not an uncommon.
And this is back in the military era where you don't stay a little while and then get to go home. You're there until it's done. We don't do that anymore.
I had an uncle that fought in the European theater. Flew at the 101st. He had 6 Purple Hearts. He was in France. 2 of his Purple Hearts come from fighting in France.
Yeah.
I forget, he had, I really should remember this, but I mean, he come home and threw these medals in a box, and that was the end of it. He started growing okra. But he literally had a box like that full of medals from French, from the English, from the U.S. And I mean, he was in the group that jumped in
Right.
for this invasion.
Yep.
And he caught machine gun fire in his legs, and that was pretty rough. You could see, looking at the scars, you could tell. I mean, got to where he could walk, got a gun, and went back and fought some more. But it's not like, according to the group around him, it's not like he was anything special.
Right.
Hell, the guy on either side of him probably just done the same thing.
Sure.
They were there to win a war. They were there to defend freedom. They were there to defend the idea that is the United States of America.
Right.
And to try to spread that idea to other people. You know, was talking about, it's estimated that on June the 6th alone, just on that one day, and figure, the German forces are not exposed. They're at machine gun encampments, rifle encampments. They're in undercover, actually in a way probably fighting from the absolute ideal fighting position.
Yep.
Compared to the Allies who were in the absolute worst fighting position.
Right.
But on that day alone, it's estimated that the German forces took up to 9,000 casualties fighting from a
Ensconced, defended
position.
Yep.
while the Allies took a minimum of 10,000, with 4,400. I wrote this down. This number has to be right. 4,414 deaths on that day.
One day.
Let me say that number again. 4,414 deaths, June the 6th, 1944. And every one of these guys knew they were probably going to die and win anyway.
Yep.
These men fought and died on foreign soil to preserve and protect freedom. They died so we may have the lives we have today. And we always forget. Everybody seems to forget. Every generation seems to forget. Freedom's not free.
That's right.
Freedom has to be bought, normally with blood. And it has to be protected, fierce. You can't have any. Where's my word? Fiercely?
Yes.
Ferocity.
I like that one.
Okay.
It has to be protected with ferocity.
Yeah.
And it has to still incorporate certain ideals of honor, which we've lost. Ideas of real unity, not the bullshit that's being peddled on TV.
Community, which we have lost so much of.
And it sucks because freedom's never free. There's always a cost, and it always has to be protected. We always have to remember rights come with responsibilities because nothing's free. And what saddens me as I was putting this together and thinking about this over the last couple of 3 days, look at England or Australia or Canada, who also had men on that beach.
They did.
All of those had soldiers on that beach, and they have absolutely disrespected and pissed on the sacrifice that their soldiers made that day. If you look at where they've let their societies go, you may, if you disagree with me, please feel free to say so.
I would add us to that list as well.
Well, the next thing I was going to say is we're on that slippery slope, and we're right there at the precipice.
We sure are.
Of falling off.
Yep.
There's still that. I think there's still that maybe one chance to maybe pull it back.
If we can open enough eyes, you're right.
But we're right on the precipice. People don't understand the gifts they've been given in this country.
Right.
If they did, they wouldn't be out here running around like a bunch of blue-haired idiots.
Right.
Sorry, Steph. You're exempted.
Thank you.
We have to honor the sacrifice our soldiers made. They still remembered and held on to the dream and the idea that's America, the shining beacon on the hill. And they were willing to make whatever sacrifice they had to make to protect that.
Sure.
And to bring it forward to today. I actually referred to it in my notes as our hallowed history. And whether that be the guys that were on that beach getting ready to go to Normandy, or on this craft getting ready, or whether it's us whether it's them looking back at the founding fathers, or whether it's us now looking back at them and the founding fathers, it is a hallowed history.
It is.
It's a history that was paid for in blood. It was paid for in dreams. It was paid for in families being torn up, being separated, and it's just too easily forgotten.
It is.
And we need to remember. It's important today as it was on June 6, 1944, that we defend freedom with ferocity.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
That's right.
And at the end of my notes here, I wrote, can we measure up to what our forefathers were?
I actually think about that question a lot, especially lately. And What a difficult task to even consider when we look at those that came before us and what's been done, the gifts that they've given us, the life that we've had and that we should cherish here in America with the unique gifts, the opportunities that we've had here.
Absolutely.
How difficult is it to think you can stack up to that? Maybe they thought the same thing about those who came before them.
You know, when you look at guys like Washington and Adams and I don't know, Hancock, and why is my memory leaving me right now?
Yeah, well,
you know, you take those 56 guys that signed the Declaration of Independence, okay? Every one of them knew that when they attached their signature to that, it was the death penalty.
they
for
were
them.
marked. That's right.
Anything that they owned, any property that they owned, their families, everything just went on, not only on the line, but became targets. And at that time, it was only 3% of the population at the revolution.
Yeah, roughly a third supported in some way, whether it's just ideology or otherwise. Third opposed, and a lot of them just didn't give a but it takes a dedicated group, a dedicated minority that, one, understands what they have and how close they are to losing it. Two, what they owe to posterity, to their families, their descendants. And three, the dangers and the challenges really that come with the task that they have ahead of them. Those guys that signed that, they had to look at where they'd been in history, where they were, what they had, what they stood to lose, the might that opposed them, and still make that decision to put their name on that piece of paper. Just like these guys on D-Day got into those landing craft. And of course, a lot of them had been there for some time because the launch had been delayed already.
Right. So they've been sitting out here.
Exactly.
And offshore.
It wasn't just that they had to go across the channel this one time. They've been sitting in those things for some time. And you just think about, either of those situations, and you think, what would I do? How soft have we become? Could we ever do something like this? But to some extent, I think the challenge forges those involved. And we have to hope that we would have...
You rise to the occasion.
You would certainly hope so, yeah. And that doesn't absolve us from our responsibilities to honor those before us, prepare ourselves for what's ahead, and make that commitment. But that's a hard thing to do. And
diligently to understand freedom has to be protected on a daily basis.
And haven't we been complacent?
It's not... Yeah, there are big events through history, but that's not where people lose freedom.
Yeah.
It's in these little stupid city ordinances, crazy state laws, especially on a federal level. Let's not even go there.
We got a few comments. Nathan Smith said, I was glad to see Tom Hanks there because he has tried to explain that generation and keep the appreciation alive, even though he is for Biden, even after he made himself look horrible again.
Here's the thing. Would I get along with Tom Hanks? Probably not. But I think I could probably sit down and have a civilized conversation with the man.
Sure.
Because grown-ups can have different opinions on different matters and have like opinions on other matters. Definitely. And still sit down and converse. Sure. And I have to, even though, I'm not going to go buy Tom Hanks movies or that kind of thing, but I do have to give him the respect that, we're quick to throw rocks at people.
Sure.
But I think we do have to give him the respect that he's talking about because he has put a lot of effort
into awareness. You're right.
So. And Noel Fawnin said, when you walk through the cemetery at Omaha Beach, you can feel the presence of all the young men who fought and died to give us the world of today.
Guys, I'll share this. This is really, really personal. And it's probably the first time I've ever shared it. My sister-in-law was in France, and she brought me back a tube of sand from the beach. And you know, sometimes when I'm thinking about these things, I'm thinking about them in depth. I will go in my bedroom, I will get that tube of sand, close the door, and just hold it in my hand. And this may sound silly, and think about, you know, what those guys went through, what their families went through. The effect it's had on the world. And I know it's just sand, but you know, it's kind of like, and especially, you know, because I still like to go back and I'll do this later tonight, and pray for the families that are still here and the ones that are still living that were there. You know, we lost another one today.
Today, we sure did.
On the trip over, he had a heart attack.
Yeah.
We've got a viewer says hola from Brazil.
Hola.
Hello.
Glad to have you.
We've had a few others that said hello.
Hi to everybody.
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt.
So you know, and I'll get my sand out and I'll get private, and you know, I still love to, you know, pray for those that are left, pray for the families of those that are left. You know, God knows they've already seen hell. So, you know, guys, remember the cost of what we've been given, because it hasn't been for free, and we can't let it go for free.
That's right.
You got anything you want to add to the discussion of D-Day?
No, that's it. I think that reverence is something that we should all have and keep and honor, that we should pass on. You know, I have 3 kids, and they've started.
Good kids too.
They are. They are. We're blessed, and they have started to learn about this history. All know what D-Day is, at least in some sense. No, you know, they're small kids. They don't know all the details.
The one that was here with you Saturday, maybe. You know, and he's like, "That's an M1 Grand."
Yep.
That's an M1 Grand.
Well, his name, my boys, I have one named Audie.
Okay.
Audie Murphy.
Audie
So
Murphy.
that's, you know, pretty appropriate. And then I have another named Merrill, after Frank D. Merrill, commander of Merrill's Marauders,
Right.
which was the provisional unit that is credited as being essentially the forerunner, the birthplace of the Ranger Regiment that we have today. Of course, the Rangers on D-Day had a big role to play too. Probably the most prominent being taking out the guns on Pointe du Hoc. And on D-Day, a little piece of trivia, the Rangers by General Frank D. Cota, when the troops were stalled out on the beach under heavy fire, couldn't make any progress, he said, "Rangers lead the way," pointed up the beach, and that's where the Rangers lead the way slogan comes from.
You know, as I was refreshing my memory and reading and looking back at D-Day, this was what was hard. There's so many things that have had so much influence that happened or were born on that day.
Right.
It was like, man, if I sit down and did this, it's going to be like a 9-hour lecture.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
But I need to get this into, you know.
Well, there is a fascinating book I read years and years ago that has a lot of good, I won't say firsthand, but anecdotal stories about individuals who were there on this day. It's the Stephen Ambrose D-Day book. And he tells, you know, all of these stories from the different perspectives of the people who were there. And it was just fascinating to read that and just think about what those guys went through.
You know, the few times, and it was very few times, my uncle would speak about it. The look that come on his face, and you know, they talk about the 1,000,000-mile stare. Most people have never really seen a 1,000,000-mile stare. That was it.
Yeah.
You know, for those few seconds or few moments, he was a young man back in France. And you know, like I said, when he come home, never talked about the decorations and the awards. He threw them in a box and started okra farming. And you know, we knew he had picked up some awards through the thing. You know, he obviously had the Purple Hearts from all the times he got shot up and everything else. But when we found the others, it was like, oh my! Now, who did we have here?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we had Uncle G, but
Sure. So much more to it than Uncle G, huh?
yeah, you know, Uncle John, okra farmer,
Yeah.
was apparently quite the badass.
Right.
I tell you what, let's stay with the D-Day theme for a minute. I promise we're getting to rifle speed.
Hey, this is more fun.
It's both going to be fun.
Okay.
I'll say right now, this is more solemn and probably at the moment more important than either rifle speed or WHMC guns.
Sure. But there's no rifle to shoot, in my opinion, that is more fun than the M1 Garand.
So let's talk about three of the individual carried weapons.
Yes.
Okay, because I don't have tanks and I don't have
I'm just moving it. You have it.
I don't have
Fresh out of hand grenades.
fresh out of hand grenades. I don't have any landing craft for you and I to come running off of.
Right, right.
I'd probably trip and break my neck. But I'll tell you what I do have.
Oof.
I got an M1 Garand.
Yes.
All 9.5 pounds of her.
She's a big
this
girl.
this one's a little later. This is H&R. M1 Garand 30-06. But this was the rifle the majority of the troops. Is this getting on camera? Am I getting this?
You can't get all of her on there. She's a big girl.
You take this in.
I got it.
Okay.
There you go.
So
Steal.
all 9.5 pounds of her. This was the rifle that most of our guys were carrying. I'm not going to try to even start doing a course on M1
Right,
Garand,
right.
because we're going to get into 276 Garand and everything else. But it was our first semi-automatic rifle. It was one of the very first gas-operated rifles. It fired, of course, the 30-06 cartridge, which, you know, of course, the military wanted to stay with that cartridge because
Had
we
too much of it.
had so much of
Yeah.
it for the old 03s.
Right. The 1917s, 1919s, all of it.
So, but it fired from an 8-round M-block clip because at the time, the specifications for the rifle said it had to have a flush fit magazine plate. It had to fit flush to the stock because in World War I and other skirmishes, the English and Australians were bad to lose their magazines, apparently.
Out of their infields?
Yeah, they couldn't hold on to their magazines. Which, you know, if they were French, I'd really understand it. But
Yeah.
so the ordnance board was totally no way, ain't
No
no
removable
way,
magazine.
no.
Yep.
So they come up with that 8-round M-block clip, and of course, you know, if you listen to the stories, and you know this, the M1 ping.
Oh, yeah.
When you fire this rifle, after the last round fires, the bolt holds open, and the empty clip is shot out of the rifle with a ping. Well, some of the lure that got around was that Germans would listen for the ping and know the guy was out of ammo, and then they'd start their attack. Well, it's a cool story.
Cool story.
It's a cool
Anybody
story.
who tells that story hasn't fired enough unsuppressed weapons with no hearing protection. Because if they did, they'd know that ping is always there, and you can hear that.
I mean,
That ping is always there in your ears.
you know, and when you got a couple of 300 of these being shot,
yeah.
and you got those guys over there with their, you know, 7mm, 8mm Mausers,
Right.
and they're shooting,
Yep.
I don't think you're going to hear the ping.
No.
But it was a cool story.
Cool story. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the stories about the 1911 we kicked so hard that, you know, it was like trying to hold on to a mule or something.
Right,
You know,
right.
you heard them.
Yeah.
And we go out there and I used to do demonstrations where I'd shoot it with these two fingers.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to it.
No problem.
So 9.5 pounds. Who was it? Patton? You may have told me. Was it Patton?
Greatest battle
Pat-
implement
great-
ever devised. Yep.
Greatest battle implement ever devised is what he called this rifle. Of course, the rifle went through several changes before we came to what we know it today and what actually went into World War II. But yeah, they were still issuing these things when I went through basic.
1840.
Yeah, that was it.
I couldn't resist.
That's fine. That's good. But when I went through basic, like the second or third day in, we all went and stood out by the armory. Funny story.
Yeah.
And they handed out M1 Grands with lead-filled barrels,
Ah.
and you had to tote these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere you went. So I've got, I'm standing out there, standing at attention. I've got my rifle, and I'm a dummy, right? Because basically, there's, I don't know how many of us out there, probably a couple of hundred out there. And there's this guy up on the stage like thing, hollering at people, and he gives an order. He tells everybody to break their rifle down. Okay, all they've done is walked out and handed you a rifle. And he tells everybody to break their rifle down. Well, I did. I got in so much trouble because I wasn't supposed to know how. I guess. Well, here's the real. That's funny.
Yeah.
I got in trouble because I followed orders.
Right.
Plus, I broke it down a little further than what they wanted it broke down.
Right.
Okay. But like the week or two before I left for basic, I was helping out at a gun shop, and back at that time you get these things coming back in where we'd send them to different countries, and when they come in they were packed full of Cosmoline.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was helping out at the gun shop, like the week or two before I left, they'd gotten in like 50 grands. And I was the guy that got to take the Cosmo.
Oh, joy, yeah.
So, for 2 weeks before I went to basic, all I had done was take grands
Take
apart.
that sucker apart. Nice.
Okay, you want it apart? Bam. It's apart.
It's apart. Yep.
But great rifles. Great. What do you got to say about the Grand? I want to hear you.
I really think that this is the most fun rifle you can possibly shoot. I don't know how you could have a bigger smile on your face than you do when you shoot an M1 Garand.
If we could figure out how to suppress it.
Yeah.
But it's still shooting an M1 Garand.
Right. No, I just love the rifle.
I do too.
It's one of those things where if you're a red-blooded American man and you don't smile when you touch an M1 Garand, I don't know what to tell you.
Move it. It's in front of your face on this camera. Thank you. Much better.
Well, maybe I want them to see the gun, not me.
Well,
The gun looks better than me.
well, now it's got its own spot.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, I'd have to say, for its time, even now, this rifle was revolutionary.
Oh yeah, and you obviously we're going to get into some wild territory here, but let's just say worst case scenario, somehow we had a military invasion of America. There are a whole lot of battlefields where you could be armed with that today
Absolutely.
and still not feel naked.
I wouldn't.
No.
Well, one thing about it is, I hadn't shot one in a while, but
It's a lot harder with middle-aged eyes with the front sight. I can tell you that.
I'm sure I haven't shot one or shot one seriously.
Yeah.
Since the glasses.
Yeah.
But these rifles you can shoot them intuitively. In that first, 100 or so yards of battle, these rifles are intuitive.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just look at the sight radius compared to what we have now. It's tremendous. The precision of the iron sights that this rifle has, the capabilities that it has.
When you click it, one MOA.
It is, and most of us, of course, don't really ever use it to its full capabilities, but it
Correct.
is a tremendously capable system.
Well, you look at Jeff Roney. I don't know if you know Jeff.
I don't.
Jeff was commander of the Navy's marksmanship program. Very accomplished shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I would dare say he's our age. You could probably give him an open sight in $1,000, and he would spank most of these guys with their scope at 1,000.
Right.
And he still shoots open sights at 1,000.
Yeah.
And shoots inside the 10-inch circle.
Goodness.
Not the 20.
Yeah.
The 10.
Yeah.
With open sights.
Nice.
And like Lake City Arsenal stuff.
Yeah.
He's got good Lake City Arsenal stuff. But yeah. But watching him handle one of these things.
Oh yeah.
You give a guy like him one of these on the battlefield,
Could do some work.
it would be amazing. But you gotta love them, and you keep your thumb out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, there's this thing called
Grand thumb.
Grand Thumb,
Yep.
and it is not a YouTube star. But people would take their thumb, they try to reach in here and push this magazine follower down
Mm-hmm.
and beat
Bad
the
move.
bolt.
Yep.
Yeah, no, don't do that. That you will smash that thumb.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you watch, I get a good grip.
Mm-hmm.
Then I push it down. You know what? I still got a
Still
good
got
grip.
a good grip. Yeah.
So my hand's over here.
Yep.
But 30-06 L1 Grand. I would say this is predominantly the rifle that went in with the Allied forces.
Certainly a primary service rifle.
Because, we were sharing them at that point with the English, with the Aussies, with the Canadians. And, although the Germans had really capable cartridges in the 7 and 8 millimeter, and we still shoot them today.
Right.
And actually some of my favorite cartridges.
Excellent.
They still didn't measure up to the .6.
No, not just the sheer firepower. You've got a clip-fed internal magazine bolt-action rifle. There's only so much you can do with that when you've got something like this on the battlefield next to it. And of course, the Aussies and the Canadians and the English, they had the
They were using Enfields.
Enfields. Yeah. Yep.
And that's why I think they was happy when the Americans were sharing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I don't think it hurt their feelings.
Yeah, of course you had the development of the Sten and everything else that came with it, because you got to think, if you're trying to clear buildings with an infield,
That's kind of rough.
woo, you better come up with something else,
It'd be like trying to clear a building with this.
Yeah.
30 minutes later, you come around the corner, your rifle's around.
It's been around the corner. Yep.
But, that's why we come up with the next gun we're going to talk
Oh, yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the M1 carbine.
Yep.
This one is I think this one's a Winchester. Yeah, this is a Winchester serial number to the 40s. I think I can't remember exactly 'cause I don't have the notes on it over there. But what, 4.5 pounds?
Yeah, and I'm not a big carbine historian, but wasn't the fellow that created the action on this gun in prison at the time? Or is that a wives' tale?
No, it's true. As far as it goes.
Yeah.
David Williams.
David Williams.
He was in a minimum security work prison. And he developed a short stroke gas piston, gas system that works in this gun. And after he come out of prison, he did go to Winchester to work. And he was involved in the process all the way through up to a point where he separated himself from the rest of the group, working on something different to present.
Yeah.
And the different project he was working on, although there was a few things come out of it that went into this gun. But yes, it wasn't the complete gun that was designed.
Right.
Which, if you watch the movie, which was a great movie. I mean, I love Jimmy Stewart. Now, he's a war hero.
He was real bad, yeah.
And one of the best actors that ever worked, so, in my opinion.
But how fascinating is that?
yeah, he developed that gas that gas system in prison, and then when he got out of prison, he went to work for Winchester, who was trying to design this type of weapon, and it went through multiple different stages and variations, and there's actually there was a group of people that's responsible for the rifle.
Sure.
But I'm a good, hard-working, honest American that loves a good story, and the story of Carbine Williams is a good story.
Awesome. Yep.
And yes, he was there through the process at Winchester. But, the movie, I think, got him sitting in a jail cell with a file, and he's making a rifle, and makes a rifle, and they take it out.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie?
I haven't seen it. No, I have to go watch that.
You need to. It's a
go
good
watch it,
movie,
yeah.
but I think they have him making it in his jail cell.
Yeah. Not
And then
exactly true to
Then
life.
they take it out in the prison yard to test it.
Oh, I see.
Uh,
That's funny.
and so, here's a prisoner, and they're giving him this rifle he just built in his jail cell.
Sure, with a file.
It's a good movie. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong.
Right.
Some of the performances in the movie, the script writing,
Yeah.
it's a classic. It deserves to be a classic.
Yeah.
But this thing, is really thought of as for paratroopers,
Support troops,
cooks,
truck drivers.
tanks.
Yeah.
But a lot of other guys really got to where they kind of liked it.
Oh, yeah. Well, just look at the handiness between the two. If you've got the choice between them, that's a whole lot easier to go around a corner with than the Garand.
Clearing rooms or whatever. Interesting fact, you may know this. It wouldn't surprise me if you knew this. This is the first weapon the United States ever had that specified it must have non-corrosive primers.
Oh, I did not know that. That's fascinating.
Because of that trap short gas system in there.
Right.
If they use the corrosive, especially in the South Pacific,
Right.
everything's going to rust up
yeah.
and it's just going to not work.
Sure.
So this was the gun that actually introduced non-corrosive priming into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And depending on who you listen to, depending on whose accounts you read, it was a great success, which I think it's a great success because that's all we use today.
Right.
Or it had failure. I'm sure it did have some failure.
Yeah, have some of both, I'm sure. Anything new?
It was talking about primers getting moisture getting to them. Okay.
Yep.
Whether it's corrosive or not, moisture gets to it, it's probably not going to shoot.
Right.
But yeah, this is the rifle responsible for introducing the non-corrosive primers.
Yep. They got over their aversion to the detachable magazine too.
Yes, they did. You figure they started working on this gun just after World War I. So everything from World War I was still fresh in their mind.
Right.
Seeing these British and Canadian and Australian soldiers running around losing their magazines or damaging their magazines and that kind of thing. This really didn't get in. They didn't really start working with us till the 40s.
Yeah, first.
So
Garand was what, 36?
First working. But the first, it's when they started adopting and
Right.
getting them in and that kind of thing.
Right.
I would love. This is way off course here. It would be really cool to build a Grand in the 277 Grand that was the original.
Sure.
Or 276.
Yeah, it's 276 or 7. Was it Peterson or something like that?
And then they had one that was the Grand. That was the
Grand.
Peterson.
Yeah.
And then they had one that was the Grand. They had 4 or 5 different cartridges. But Winchester, the cartridge, the 30 carbine cartridge, come from the 32 Winchester self-loading. Then of course the history where they were having problems shooting people and them staying down because it's not necessarily
It's not much
it's
of a
not
cartridge.
it's not a massive powerhouse or anything. Then they come up with the M2, which had the little
Happy switch.
right over here. Then they started trying to hang 30-round magazines in them. Found out that the locking system wouldn't hold the weight.
Too heavy.
So I had to go back and make changes on it. But still, you got to call the gun an overall success if you look at how it's
Oh yeah.
it's iconic in America. It's iconic
Yeah.
world over.
Yep.
Even non-gun people can see this and say, that's an M1
Oh,
carbine.
yeah, sure. There's tons of kids that look at these that play the video games. Probably where my boy got it, even though he shot my Garands.
And, you know, it really kind of opened the concept up for what we do today.
Right. Look at the ergonomic changes with the controls on this weapon that happened between the development of the Garand to this carbine.
Yeah.
You know, we moved the safety outside the trigger guard. Well, that's a pretty darn good idea.
Although this was a far better idea than Remington and Browning had.
Sure. Mag release on this gun, you know, is something where it's essentially in the same position that we keep today, where you can.
Yeah, that caused a problem.
It did with
Initially,
the original push button because they
safety.
confused the safety and the
They
magazine.
dropped their magazine.
Right, exactly.
That's why they went to the lever style safety.
Yep, to differentiate.
Weight, length, you know, because everybody up this time wanted long barrels, had to have long barrels.
Right.
You know, here, you know, we dropped down to a 16-inch gun.
Yeah. And now you, as I said, I'm not a big carbine historian, but originally there was no provision for a bayonet attachment, as I understand it.
No.
So that had to come along.
That came along, and it was retrofitted on the guns that didn't have it. So yes, that was originally there was no provision for a bayonet. And you know, you kept your oiler and everything in here.
In the stock, yep.
Yep. And
Never trusted that. I mean, to me, that just seems fiddly. I figured I'd be losing all that sooner or later.
it don't stop the gun from working.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're going to create something like that, you put it in a non-essential place.
That's right.
And there wasn't much to stop this gun from working.
Right.
You know, in a lot of ways, it's you know, the original bolt design had some issues, so they went to a more of a grand style bolt, which to a big extent we still use now. They're rotating bolts.
Sure.
You know, so you know they have both guns have heavily influenced gun design, and even to some way this gun really started showing, in my opinion, tactical thinking.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we get to D-Day and we're running into problems like they had in the French cities where now we're fighting door to door, we're trying to clear houses. Man, you think those guys didn't want these?
Darn right they do. With that removable magazine, they can reload quickly,
And-
short, handy length on it.
Yeah. I mean, if I understand the power difference. I really do.
Sure.
But if I'm clearing houses, I believe I'd rather have this than this.
Yeah. Yeah, you shoot a guy in the face across the room with this, I think it's going to be powerful enough.
And it had the accuracy to do it.
Yep.
So, anyway, guys, we're geeking out here just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
We Kyle and I can get off into firearms design, cartridge design, everything else real quick if you haven't noticed.
It's just too much fun. You know, what could be cooler than World War II era U.S. weapons?
And you know, this is the real deal. These two rifles are not reproductions. They're the real deal from that era. This is probably Korea.
Yeah.
This particular
H&R,
rifle was probably Korea.
It's a 5 million H&R,
Yeah.
so I would say Korea, yeah.
That's probably Korea. But it was the first one on the shelf when I went over to get one.
Right.
I'm sure
It works.
there's a World War II era
Yeah, I see a few good looking ones over there.
over there. So let's move on from this one. Now this gun, I will admit, is a reproduction because I honestly don't have any of my World War II Colts here in the store.
Right.
So there it is. The world champion.
That's right.
2 world wars.
They don't make a
Korea.
46.
Do what?
They don't make a 46.
And why do you carry a 45? It'll do till a 46 comes along.
Right. Yep.
I would say the three top most iconic handguns in the world would be the 1911, the Colt Single Action Army, and the Smith & Wesson Model 10, or K-Frame 38, M&P.
Okay.
Because you see them, you recognize them, you know them.
Yep.
Gun person, not gun person.
Right.
You may disagree with my list. If you do, I'd love to hear yours.
I would maybe toggle the Glock in place of the M&P today. Now, years ago, yeah, definitely the Smith revolver. It's hard to argue though, because that Smith revolver is so iconic and ubiquitous that it's
from
easily on the list.
1880s to today. I mean, there's still places carrying them today.
Right. Yep. It's not wrong for sure.
I'm not saying that there's not other guns that deserve to be in that list.
Sure.
I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, those are the three most iconic I can think of.
Yeah.
And do I agree the Glock belongs in that list? Yes, I do. But which one do you tie it with?
Right. Right.
So anyway, guys, the 1911 A1, because this is an A1.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been the gun that was being carried, with the exception of the grips. The grips on this one, they fancied them. They went back to the World War I style double diamond grip.
Right.
For World War II, this would have been brown plastic.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't like the brown plastics, but I like them.
If you want it to be militarily period correct,
right.
Militarily period correct. For World War II on an A1, it would have been the brown plastic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that somebody that really knows and that's say, well, they put them from this serial number to this serial number at this plant. They put wood grips on them. I'm sure they did because that's what they had laying there.
Right.
But as a general rule, without having to teach a master's class, it would have been the brown plastic. And the other changes from World War I would have been going from the flat mainspring housing to the arched mainspring housing. They made this longer. They're trying to eliminate hammer bite. And they shortened the hammer spur and rounded it some. The short trigger.
I like the short trigger.
That's my favorite. Short trigger is my favorite. The grips. That was pretty much it.
It's amazing to think that this gun has enjoyed not just the popularity, but just the success, I think would be a better term, that it has for so long now. I mean, over 5,000 rounds with 0 failures in the acceptance testing.
6,000.
6,000. That's incredible. Has there been a small arm since that has equaled that?
I would guess they're. I don't know.
I don't either. I'd be curious to know.
But I guarantee you, for the time that was happening, okay, now we got to take consideration machines, metal
there were
quality,
no computers,
everything,
no CNCs.
No, everything was being done by hand.
Yep.
And, trying to replicate this part exactly, that was the one problem with hand-built guns, is parts.
Right.
Because you may make that part one way and put a bevel on your angle, and I may make that part just a little bit different and maybe use a reverse bevel.
Right.
We're two gunsmiths doing the same job.
Yeah. Or even more simple than that, this tool has a little more wear on it than this tool.
Yeah.
And therefore you have fitment issues between parts. And now you've got a case where you've got to have craftsmen that can hand fit these things.
But they even beat that. They even, they found a way to. This is just John Browning genius.
It is. It's fascinating.
I know a lot of people say the modern day gun guy, the guy that revolutionized the world, was Gadsden Glock.
Yeah.
And you know what? To an extent, and in the current era, that might be right.
Certainly an evolutionary design.
You know, but let's face it, Gadsden didn't know a damn thing about a pistol.
Yeah.
I knew the man well. Didn't know a damn thing about a pistol. He made plastic stuff.
Right.
And he made plastic gas cans primarily.
Yeah. And then he got into, was it shovels or the knives? Which one was first? I don't recall whether it's the shovels or the knives.
But anyway, if John Browning hadn't figured this out, Gadsden would have never figured out a Glock.
Right.
Or held a party and picked people's brains.
Right.
So, I would say easily the most iconic handgun in the
Oh,
world.
without a doubt. Yeah.
And here we are in 2024. And, you know, this dates back further than 1911.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And you still see them in use with special operations units.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, guys.
And look at the development that's still ongoing with this. So the refinement and improvement.
But the
that's
basic working system hasn't changed.
Right. Right.
We make it hold more rounds. We put it in different calibers.
Yeah.
We might use some, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic working premises of this gun
Right.
is the same today as it was then.
Right.
And
done
that-
right, it still runs with anything, I think.
you know,
Done wrong, you got problems, but done right, it's up there.
and it, you know, if you look at, if you just look down,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer in them.
I got a staccato on my hip. I know what you're saying.
And you know, that's just like I said, it's just an
It's a
evolution
fancied up 1911. Yep.
Of his design.
Yep.
The working premise is exactly the same.
Right.
So there you have it, guys. 3 of the guns that were most prominent on the landing at D-Day and the fighting, whether it was with the paratroopers that were jumping in, the additional troops that landed later after the initial invasion on June 6th for reinforcement and to move forward and take, you know, anchor these cities down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can tell we're fans.
Yeah.
We're fans. So we don't start losing people. We're going to move on from these things. And we're going to move over and we're going to talk to Kyle. Like I said, Kyle's the president and CEO of Rifle Speed. And basically, if you just really put it down in a nutshell, they make gas blocks. You go, what is sexy about a gas block?
Those are.
So, I'm not going to tell you, but you can.
I can. Yeah.
So, this is the packaging. I'm going to back out of here. I'm going to turn this over to Kyle and let him explain Rifle Speed. I can tell you they will be on WHMC Custom Guns coming out as people are ordered. This will be one of those that you have to, if you don't want it, you have to tell us. Because it'll be one of those
Once
that
you shoot it, you'll want it.
Yes. So, here you go, bro.
All right, thank you. So we talked about a little bit about some of the evolutionary changes that are happening with these service rifles over the years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we fast forwarded quite a bit from these days, but if you look at the Stoner design carbine, the M4 kind of as we would generally term it today, that's America's longest serving, most successful military carbine in our history.
Yeah, I think it goes back to a conversation we were having before we went on when I said they took, how'd I say it, one of the biggest failures in history
Turn it into a
and
big
turned
success.
and turned it into the most formidable fighting platform known.
Right.
You know, and that's really the story of that platform.
It is. Well, its modularity has had a lot to do with that.
Absolutely.
Just the fact that it is so much easier to reconfigure, to swap parts, to replace parts, to iterate the weapon system where, I hate that term, and I just said that, the weapon system. So it's so much easier to iterate this.
If you say assault weapon,
If I say a what?
assault weapon.
Assault, yeah. So it's so easy to reconfigure and update this firearm that's what we've done. If you look back over, I was in the military in the late 90s to early 2000s, and if you look at the guns that we had then versus these guns versus where we are now, there's so many changes that have been made in all these little weapons programs, and I've been in military weapons development for a couple of decades now, and there's always some new twist, new tweak that's being done. M16, A1, A2, M4, A1, the SOCOM has got their programs, all this, and it's always moving the system forward. Okay, just as these guns move technology forward for our weapons, we're still doing that today.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most glaring deficiencies that we've had with this firearm is the fact that it is a gas-operated rifle with a fixed gas system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why didn't the fixed gas system matter when we were shooting these guns? Because we had
one ammo,
the same ammo. Okay, maybe you had a tracer or an AP, but they're essentially the same ammo.
They're running the same pressure, same.
Yep. Nobody's shooting a suppressor. Okay, one barrel length for the Garand. It's a fixed configuration.
Yeah.
In other words,
The fixed configuration with the loads, it was just to change a bullet.
right?
But you were running same pressure, same powder, same primers.
That's not the case today,
Oh no.
especially in the last 20 years or so. So there have long been some use of military suppressors, but I almost said something to date myself even more. I almost actually said back in my day, and that's terrible. I'm not going to say.
Did you know Hiram Maxim?
I did not know Hiram Max. So he left right before I got there.
Oh, okay.
Now, last deployment when I was in Afghanistan. Second last deployment was Afghanistan. Regiment did an ambush where all of the weapons were suppressed except the machine guns, and that's one thing I happen to remember from the AR on that, where this is identified as a glaring deficiency. So we had already started to adopt suppressors on the M4s, the Mark 12s, the other carbines, stoner style carbines that we had back then. That's 20 years ago, and we've got suppressors on this firearm. Now, everybody's shooting suppressed. Police, military, civilians, all of it. We're all shooting suppressed. Well, combine that with the fact that we've got, a 5-inch barrel, a 20-inch barrel, everything in between. How many different types of ammunition? I can tell you that the military weapons program folks I'm talking to are currently, they have a pain point of 7 different types of ammunition that they're managing for one carbine right now. Huge variances in these ammunitions. So all of this is to say that our most successful, longest serving military carbine was a gas-operated rifle with a fixed gas system. We had to have some way to account for all of the different environments that we're operating in, from the Arctic to the extreme heat in the desert, the fact that we're using suppressors. We've got all these different configurations with gas system lengths that are changing. That's something that's happened in the last decade or so. We've gone from the carbine length gas system to the mid-length gas system.
And now all the plus ones, minus ones.
All that stuff. It's all over the place right now. All of this is an attempt to manage symptoms rather than addressing the problem where it starts, which is with a fixed gas port. Okay? You drill a hole in a barrel that's as big or as small as that hole is ever going to get, other than some wear issues that will come over time. I'm talking about for the configuration of the weapon. You're kind of stuck. So the approach that the industry has taken is to pick a port size, gas port size, that's a compromise, that lets us kind of do, almost everything. And in doing so, we're deliberately excluding both ends. Well, there are times when those ends are extremely important. When you look at the data that came out of Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane, when the carbine and mid-length gas system tests were being done here a few years ago, you'll see that the failures for both gas systems, 50%, plus or minus a point, but 50% of their failures happened in the cold weather testing.
Makes perfect sense.
So, of course. So, the mid-length gas system, which is objectively better. If you look at the results of that test, it is objectively better to a degree that's just, it's incredible. However, it had a slightly higher failure rate. I didn't say number of failures, I said failure rate around 51% of its failures happened in the cold weather testing, versus I think it was 48 or 49% for the carbine length gas system. Well, that tells us that the gas system length is not the only thing we have to control. We need to be able to manage the gas system on a gas-operated rifle. Otherwise, we basically have a truck with one speed in the transmission, which may be fine when you're going down the road at 40 miles an hour, but it kind of sucks when you're coming, at a stop sign going uphill, or trying to do 80 miles an hour, pulling a trailer, whatever. You've got to have ways to manage this vehicle. Same thing with a rifle. So what Rifle Speed has done is develop a completely tool-free modular gas system that is adjustable for this carbine. That allows us to size the gas port in our barrel for those worst case conditions of the weaker 223 pressure. Let's just talk 5.56 for a minute, or standard AR carbines. We've got, let's say, commercial pressure ammo, like a lot of the 223 ammo we shoot. A lot of your match ammo is significantly lower pressure than your ball ammo.
Correct.
That's what got me into trouble in a rifle match I'll tell you about years ago that started this whole thing. So we've got ammo that generates a little less pressure. We have a dirty gun. There's no suppressor, and we're in the cold. Those four things you put together, that's like the 4 horsemen of death for an AR. Pretty much any gas-operated carbine. So what that means is we need a larger gas port to start with. Mm-hmm. But if we do that, now we have other consequences. We're talking about those extremes I mentioned earlier. Now we have other consequences when we're in Afghanistan and it's 130 degrees and that weapon's been in the sun baking for the last 9 hours. We've got a whole other, plus the A1 and the hotter mil-spec ammo that we've got, plus you put a suppressor on it. All sorts of ammo problems that come up with these configurations, these environments, these ammunitions, where you really need a way to manage this gas system. So with the Rifle Speed gas system, I'm going to pull up my little number 1 carbine here. You guys can probably see I've got some doodads on here, but if you look right here around the barrel in front of this handguard, all I have to do is turn this little dial. I've got numbered repeatable settings, and it's like a volume knob for my gas system. A lower number is less gas, and a higher number is more gas. Now, if you guys I'm
hoping to lighten it up, they can see it.
There you go. Now you can maybe see me turning it a little better. But if you guys have fooled around with any adjustable gas systems for an AR, with the exception of ours, you're talking about a system that's going to have a little tiny set screw that's underneath the handguard. You got to have this big long Allen wrench. I would like some more, thank you. You're going to have this, big long Allen wrench that's about 8 inches long. And you never have it. That you never have with you. I've had guys talk to me about, I zip tied an Allen wrench to my handguard. Well, what in the hell kind of solution is zip tying an Allen wrench to your handguard on a combat weapon?
I've never liked zip tying anything.
Not a good solution.
I remember when the early days, when it was laser product. I'm really going to take myself here.
I remember, yeah. Laser products.
That's now Surefire.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And we run the cords down the gun, and we zip tied the cords.
Yep, duct taping it to the handguard.
Black electrical tape.
Sure.
Yeah, just no. I mean, we didn't have any choice back then.
Right.
We were pioneering stuff.
Exactly.
But we do have a better choice now.
We do. And
I'm going to say this, guys. I've never told Kyle this. I'm going to say this. Sure. Back up. I thought he was full of shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you got a great gas block. You got a great concept. And I believe you made it work. I believed all that. Mm-hmm. Okay? No doubt. There was no doubt in my mind. But it can't make that damn big a difference. It's going to be more convenient.
Yeah.
I can see this being something we can sell on convenience.
Right. That's probably the most common impression people have. So we do demos and shows all over the country. And we do live fire for what you just said. People hear this and they think, yeah, well, whatever. I'll just build it right in the first place. Build it right. I'm air quoting here because people don't understand all the things we've talked about with environmentals, ammunition, configurations, all these things, and the fact that when you pick a fixed gas system with one port size, you're making that compromise. You have to.
Yes.
That's your only choice.
And, it's probably a little slightly longer for me being in any kind of operations than it has been for you. But I feel like I can speak to the built right because that's my profession.
Sure.
You know, I feel like we build some of the highest quality guns in the industry, and it's not just me saying that. If you go watch these guns operate, they prove that.
They run.
And for me to, so they're built right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're very peculiar about that.
Sure.
It's built right. However, just like from the day of the M1 Grand, it was built right.
Right.
You know, the M14, it was arguably built right.
Arguably, yep.
You know, BM59,
Yeah.
we won't get off on that
Sure.
on that rabbit hole.
Another tangent. Yeah.
But built right, it changes.
It does.
Built right changes. You know, when we went from 4140 chrome moly steel to using 17.4 stainless in things, chrome moly steel was built right.
Sure.
That was great.
Sure.
But now we can get more strength, we can get more durability, we can get, you know, just all of this other great stuff by making that part out of 17.4 stainless.
Right.
Here, I can eliminate, you know, you always, as a rifle builder, okay, especially when you're, if you're like Felipe, or if you're like myself, you out, brother?
Yeah.
Thank you, son.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
If you get a minute, we got 3 or 4 more to do.
Uh,
Big guns.
okay.
But, or whether it's Andrew, or when Dane was here, whether it was Dane, and we're sitting at that table and we're building guns. Especially when we know we're building guns that are going to go into harm's way. That's the reason we're building them. And we you want to think you put that level into every gun.
Sure.
But you know, when you're like building guns for SROs or that kind of thing, you find another level in yourself.
Oh yeah.
And,
Right.
So built right. Built right. And I love Superlative, okay? I love SH. Superlative Arms, great company, good product. Never had any issue with their gas blocks. I think it's arguably, some time back you asked me, I told you it was best on the market.
Sure. A lot of people say that.
And I own several Superlatives. Unfortunately, you're going to cost me a hell of a lot of money because I'm probably going to switch them out. But it is a pain to try to get in there and adjust.
To adjust. You never know what setting you're on because there's no numbers.
No. But this goes to built right. If you're building it from the ground up, build it right. And my opinion has changed to a point. After using it, and after we initially talked about this, how long was it before we talked again? You got me something in my hand.
Yeah.
And then I didn't talk to you.
It was a while.
I didn't talk to you about it.
Right.
I didn't call you. I didn't bug you.
Right.
You got us one. We went back there and went to work with it.
Yep.
Okay. So, you know, don't think it's like we were, you know, hey, Kyle in my ear going, hey. I don't put up with that.
I don't do a hard sell.
You know.
I don't need to with this, you know.
You know, we went back and we started using things. We started putting things together. And it, to me, now, our level of built right for a $3,000 custom rifle includes this.
Right.
That is built right.
Right. That's it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent and interrupt you.
Hey, that gave me a chance to get some more coffee.
Okay.
Yours is coming.
So the big thing is that now built right means we can account for all of these things that we couldn't account for before. We have taken something that required a compromise. There's no way around it. It required a compromise. But now we can meet any configuration, environment, ammunition. We can meet all these things. Which means that I have a more reliable weapon. If you've never shot an AR with a properly tuned gas system, you know, you'll hear guys say, well, the AR doesn't have any recoil anyway, so, you know, I don't need to adjust the gas to reduce the recoil. When we put these guns in people's hands, we go all over the country to do this. One of two things happens. You remember the old Pepsi challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we do is the Pepsi
We
challenge.
are dating ourselves.
I know, that's bad. So we'll load up a mag with 10 rounds and say, okay, hey, we're going to start you wide open. Shoot 5 rounds with the gas wide open. Okay, this is going to simulate like a fixed gas AR. Nothing has been done to make these ARs. We've not ported the barrels. We've not adjusted anything. It's exactly like your fixed gas AR would be if you built it or bought it. Okay, nothing special about any of the components we put on here other than rifle speed. And they fire those 5 rounds. Now, this is all suppressed. We'll use typically an 11.5 carbine or a 14.5 mid-length to do these demos with. We've got some full auto stuff we'll do, and 308, all that, but it's mostly the 11.5 and 14.5, 5.56. Suppressed. All right, so they fire those first 5 rounds. And what they have is very brisk and snappy recoil from a suppressed AR. They have gas blowback in their face. Their sights for a right-handed shooter are going to be moving up and to the right off the target, and their ejection, their breath is ejecting to the front because it's coming out of that ejection port so violently that it's bouncing off that case deflector and going forward. All right, so they shoot those 5 rounds, and then we turn the gas down to the suppressed setting we've set up with the rifle speed gas system, and they fire that first round with the gas adjusted properly. One of two things happens. They'll either look at it and hand it back to me like, you got to fix this because it didn't work, they didn't feel it cycle, or they look at it and they're calling their buddies over their shoulder like, oh, you guys got to come try this, because they've had that light bulb moment where they realize just what it means to have a properly set up gas system on a gas operated rifle. It is night and day.
I had to try something with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 5.56, 12-inch with the car. I think it was a carbine plus 1.
Okay.
Length.
Mm-hmm.
With the JP Enterprise.
That silent capture?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's silly.
Now, I understand. JP Enterprise stuff to me is overpriced, and it's cool for play guns. I don't want them on a serious
They make
gun.
nice things.
They do.
Yes.
They make really nice
Yes.
products, and they're really cool. They do change the way the gun shoots
Yes.
and all that. So, but I just had to try it with, with the silent capture.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped about a 2-pound trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Flipped it over on the suppressed setting.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, I know. It will spoil you where you will not want to shoot. People tell me this all the time. I don't want to shoot anything else once I had this rifle speed installed on my carbine. I don't want to shoot any other AR because it's ruined them. And that's
Well,
the way I am.
You know, I think it's made a believer out of us because, we're adapting it to our guns.
Right.
And, I can be kind of an asshole about our reputation.
Right? Got to be.
You got to be.
Yeah.
Either do it right or don't do it.
Yep.
So, one thing I want you to talk to people about just a little bit is the different links that you got. That's probably one of the biggest questions I get.
When people first see it, there's opportunity for some confusion there. Yeah. Let's see, which one do we have here? This is okay. So this is a little short guy.
That was the first one I picked up.
That's great.
Do I need to grab an apple?
If you would, see if there's an RS-7558 back there. Last 2 digits, 58. So what we're talking about is the length of the assembly. And this box is kicking my ass. So you guys know if you've built or shot ARs, you're into ARs. You've got different barrel lengths, different gas system lengths, which we've talked about quite a bit.
Alarm lengths.
Different handguard lengths, exactly. And if you're not going to have a tool to stick underneath that handguard, then you have to have some kind of adjustment mechanism to stick out of the handguard.
That's correct.
That's what we've done. Thank you. So we have the short model, which is this little guy right here. Okay, the assembly length is 1.9 inches long, all the way up to this long boy, which is 5.8 inches long. Now, some people look at this and say, well, that's a funky looking muzzle brake, which I understand, but it's not.
I can see that.
I know, I can see it. The first time somebody said that to me, I was like, what are you talking about? And then I realized, you're right, it does kind of look like it. So this is the exact same thing with a longer control knob. The control knob being the part that we actually grasp to turn. Can we see those numbers on there? Does that show up okay?
Let's get it a little bit closer.
That'll be something that'll be helpful for everybody to understand what we're talking about.
Right there.
That you have numbered settings on there.
Hey guys, somebody tell us if you're seeing the numbers okay. Somebody shoot something in the comments. Tell me if you're seeing the numbers okay, please.
Thank you. So the big thing there is I've got to stop at 1, I've got to stop at 12. 12 settings on our standard models here. But all I have to do is grasp the end of this control knob to make my adjustment. Now the reason for the links is we've got the different gas system links, the handguard lengths, and we need just enough of that control knob to be exposed to be able to grasp it and turn it. Okay, this guy that I showed you earlier actually has one of the middle sizes. It's in between these two. This is an 11.5-inch barrel carbine length gas system with a 9.5-inch handguard. And as you guys can see, if I can probably turn it at a little better angle here, that'd be better. I've got about an inch of this control knob exposed. That's the only difference with what you see with these different assemblies is the length of the control knob. All of the other parts are the same. They all interchange and they all work the same way. So if you visit our website, you'll see the very first link on the entire page is choose your gas control. That's where you guys use it when you interact with customers. You say, okay, what does your carbine configuration look like? What's your barrel length, gas system length, handguard length? Those are the 3 things we got to know. We've got a calculator on there that will do all of the math for you. So all you have to do is say, I got a 16-inch barrel with a mid-length gas system and a 13.5-inch handguard. Boom, 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 enter that in the drop downs and it will give you color-coded results so you know what fits. And that's what you're doing, is just determining the links that you need with the corresponding model numbers. Okay, super handy tool for people at home or people that come visit WHMC here to know what they need.
It's a quick tool for us, and it's kind of being interactive. Pull it up on your phone,
right,
and stand right there at the counter with the customer,
right.
So believe me, dealers appreciate nice tools like that.
Yeah, well, you've got to have something to facilitate the acceptance process and the sales process where a guy can know what he needs and get it in a reasonable process. And something that you guys may have been able to hear that might be helpful there.
Get it closer to him.
There we go. So you guys can probably hear that. We have very deep, distinct detents on each position, and there's a hard stop at each end. Now, why is that important? Well, I can't possibly adjust this wrong. I can't take it out of the range of adjustment that I've got set up for my carbine because there's a stop at each end. So if you guys go back a few years, the turrets on a scope, they would just spin and spin, and sometimes on some scopes you wouldn't know which rotation you were on. You said 5, but you don't know which 5 you were on because you may be 2 revs up. That happened to me in a match years ago as well. Well, that can't happen with this because we've got basically a captured range of adjustment where you can't vibrate loose, can't shoot loose, you can't screw it up and adjust one way and have the whole thing come apart on your gun, because that's a consideration when you've got something that's manually adjustable. Is people are just going to grab it and turn it, can't screw it up. Also,
I tried.
I know. We've had a lot of people. Now I say you can't screw it up. We have some people that contact us that have found a way, but it's usually 1 or 2 things that are easily avoidable. The system comes apart with no tools, and I know I did that kind of fast there, but I can disassemble this entire system. If that shows up, you guys will be able to see just how simple and robust these parts are, in that there are no tiny little detents or springs or no tiny little set screws or anything like that can get screwed up on it like you would have on some older designs. All of this to say that it is designed from the ground up to be a military or duty grade system made for defense or duty weapons. It's great for recreational purposes as well, but it was really designed to be a durable, and even though everybody hates this term, soldier-proof type system, because it's got to be. And it simplifies the process.
That's why gun designers sit down, is either soldier-proof or cop-proof.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Well, we have tens of thousands of these all over the world now. You know, Rifle Speed is still a fairly young company. We launched commercial sales in October of 21, so we're 2.5 years now into this thing. And you know, the acceptance and success this thing has had has just really been tremendous. We've got gas controls on guns from the biggest name players in the entire industry, shipping guns all over the world for contract guns, police,
I
LA
saw,
guns.
as I was wandering around the NRA national meeting,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you kind of told me in confidence some of them.
Yeah.
So I wandered by a couple of those booths.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, there they are.
There they are, yeah. Yeah, so they have started to get put on a lot of OEM guns and go to police and military units. And, you know, one common thing that we hear, kind of going back to the why of it and the configurations and all that. In fact, I had an agency contact me and said, we bought, you know, these guns, you know, and they were really nice, very expensive guns. And we bought these cans, suppressors, which were really good, you know, well-known brand suppressors, but they put them together and now their guns don't work because that gun was not made, doesn't have an adjustable gas system. It's a fixed gas gun like we talked about. It was not made to handle all of these configurations, configuration being the installation of a suppressor. They had several different types of ammunition that were being run through these guns, and they just had all kinds of problems. Enter the gas control, they ended up with a couple of test units, passed with flying colors. Now every gun on the tactical teams has a Rifle Speed gas control on it. Problem solved.
I'm not going to say where it happened.
Okay.
I will say it happened coming home
Uh-huh.
from the NRA annual meeting.
Mm.
I got pulled over.
Uh-oh.
The trooper standing there talking to me, and I think I had my name, my badge, you know, the things like we wear at SHOT Show.
Yeah.
Laying there in the seat and a couple of other things. And he goes, traveling for work. I'm like, yeah, I am. And he's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm GM over a gun shop in Humboldt, Tennessee, and rifle builder and designer.
Yeah.
Oh, where you been? NRA annual meeting up here in Dallas.
Yeah.
No, we rock on there for a few minutes talking. He says, I need to ask you a professional question. Okay. You know, what do you think about Brand X? I'm like, they're a great freaking rifle, man. You know, that's some of the top stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I'll call the name is LWRC, which I think,
Sure.
yes, you would agree.
Sure.
These guys make great stuff.
Yeah.
It's bomb-proof for the most part. But they're having that exact same issue now that they're getting suppressors.
Right.
And I gave him your name.
Awesome.
He's like, you build custom guns, how would you fix it? Call Kyle Lynch.
There you go.
Literally, got my phone.
Yeah.
Got your number out of my phone.
Good.
Wrote it on the back of a business card
I
and
hope he
handed
gives me a
it
call.
to him.
I hope I'll tell him. Yeah, I'll talk to him all the time. No, that's cool. We actually get that conversation. In fact, I got it this week. It's funny. I had one of the SWAT team guys that's involved in the procurement process for their new cans. They're doing an evaluation on 7 different suppressors for their carbines. He calls me and we're talking, and I can hear the radio going in the background. And several times during the conversation, he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta go," and he's hanging up the phone because they've got to go chase some guy. And he calls me back and he's out of breath. Yeah, we had to go, fugitive, and he chased this guy. So, in the process of doing his job, he's explaining the situation they have where they have old cans, they've got these guns, they're testing these new cans to replace. And he told me, I think he said, they have range days. It's a full-time SWAT team, which not all SWAT teams are full-time. In fact, I'd probably say most of them are not. But this is, big department, very big department. Full-time SWAT team. They have 2 range days per week, and he said their average round count for each shooter, each range day is about 500 rounds. It's a pretty good bit of shooting every week.
I mean, but if you're going to operate at the level,
you got to keep up that proficiency. So, you're talking 50-something thousand rounds a year.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the durability of the suppressors, the durability of the guns. Of course, they break bolts and wear all the stuff that goes on with a suppressed M4.
any M4.
Any M4. So, we're talking about what they have, what they're doing, the problems they're having. And he said, let me get a couple of these on a demo letter, and we'll try this gas system out. And that conversation is happening over and over and over. And once these guys get a gas control on their carbine, it's almost just a done deal. Budget is always an issue for LE and, things like that. And there's, some training requirements and all, where you've got a new thing, you've got to have some training with it. All that said, when we have anybody, individual shooter up to a unit or agency that says, I've got, this great gun and this great can, or this great not so great gun and this can, I put them together and they just don't work anymore. This has been a solution for so many people that.
And it's a simple solution.
It's simple.
And I think that's what really draws me to it.
Yes.
Most of the time when you're evaluating a problem, the simplest solution is the best.
Yes. Well, complexity is easy. And I'm stealing a quote from somebody I can't recall. Maybe one of the Soviet weapons designers. Now I can't recall. But they said complexity is easy, simplicity is hard.
Sounds like something Kalishnikov would
It may
say.
have been him. Honestly, I wish I could remember, but it's very true. It's easy to design something with 100 pieces and parts that will do every little thing, but it's a lot harder to make something that is very simple, that will do everything you want it to do, everything it needs to do, and survive in the process and all that. And that's something that our gas controls have done very, very easily. The barrel or your bolt will be worn out and ready for replacement before any part of your gas control will. That was one of the threshold requirements during our development, is under no circumstances can the gas control be the fuse or the weak link. Some major component has to go before the gas control needs anything, any parts replacement or service or any of it. In fact, the same SWAT cop today said, a lot of our guys, they're SWAT cops, but they're not necessarily gun people. And so, their version of weapons maintenance is the minimum of what they're required to do and trained to do. So they may not intuitively know, you got to maintain this part or that part. So if we add this, the concern, very legitimate concern is, are we adding complexity that's going to be a problem? Okay? Great question. The entirety of the maintenance of a rifle speed gas control is one drop of oil on the plunger where it enters the plunger channel. I know you guys can't see that very well right now, but you put one drop of oil on it when you oil your bolt carrier group, and that's it. That's all of the maintenance you'll ever have to do to it. When you shoot out your barrel, which most of us don't do, but if you train hard and shoot hard, go to courses or whatever, you will. If you're a competitive shooter, you will. Your barrel or your bolt is going to be gone long before this will. The importance of that is this is a survivable part that, though it is expensive on the front end, is going to last and last and last.
Let's just address that comment head on. Okay. These are $230.
Yep.
You walk in here to $229.99. Is that right? Yes, it's an expensive part, but how much is an SA? A superlative, $100.
The others are
100
to 120, something like that. Yeah. So let's say other adjustables. There isn't one. I think it was the.
Well, I'm not picking on superlative.
Sure.
I'm trying to find.
I won't ever badmouth anybody's product.
And I'm just trying to find a product that's on level.
Right. Well, there's really not one.
There's. You didn't let me finish.
Right. The Noveski switch block would be the closest, and it's like $190.
Okay, so $40.
Yeah. So funny thing about that, I did this. I know this to be true because it happened to me before rifle speed was the thing. Anytime somebody says, well, man, that is really expensive, I say, yes, it is really expensive. It's, more than the other ones that are out there. So beside from the additional capabilities that you get with it that more than justify the price, once you get it, you'll understand this. The very first time you spend your only Saturday morning that you're going to have all month to go to the range, you load up all your gear, take all your gear to the range, driving half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever for a lot of us. We live in town, we have to drive out to the range. Take all your gear out of your truck, get your bench at the range, your spot at the range, whatever, get all your gear out, get your target set up, come back, get your mags in your gun. You go to fire that first shot. you're an hour or 2 hours deep into this process. You fire that first shot and realize that you forgot that little hex wrench that's about this long that you got to have to adjust your set screw style gas block, and you've wasted all that time and you got to go home. The very first time that happens, any concern about this being a few dollars more than another system goes out the window. It is so worth it. And I did that personally before this was a thing. So I know that to be a fact. Most of us don't have that much time to go to the range. And when we do, we need things that are simple and reliable and that just work. And that's what this is.
And the other thing is, when we're shooting, let's say, let's just come up with a hypothetical, but could actually be a real thing.
Sure.
Say, you, Lance, and myself decide to go shooting.
Okay.
Okay. We're gonna have probably an array of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're gonna be switching cans. We're gonna be doing this. We're probably gonna be putting cans on guns that normally didn't have cans. So if I'm shooting my 500 Beowulf, or 50 Beowulf, I'm
50
sorry.
Beowulf, yeah.
And I didn't bring my Bowers 50 caliber suppressor.
Right.
I need to be able to adjust that gas system right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or the good time that we find, it probably took 2 months to try to get all of us together at one point.
Right.
Just had a major crap taken on it.
That's right.
Because the Beowulf's always going to be fun. It's going to be one of the fun guns.
Yeah. Well, even,
and
I don't want to get too what if here, but even you put that similar scenario, let's say, into a tactical situation where guys say, well, I always shoot with my can, so it's not a big deal. All right, what if your can takes a round
and it's got to go?
Yeah. Okay. Your can takes a round through the middle of it, and you fire a shot. Now, everything except the mount is gone down range. You still have to have a gun that'll work.
And we'll take out the take a round part, okay?
Sure.
Follow me with this.
All right.
There are some really good quick detach systems, detach systems out there.
Right.
And there's some that are questionable.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And even some of the good ones, if you start talking about shooting a can and a gun and a rifle, like this one team's talking about, some of those quick detach systems are going to give up.
Sure.
The wear is going to get to the point that you can launch a can real easy.
More than once, I'm talking about all these demos and range days we do, more than once we have seen our neighbors, we have all these industry companies lined up next to us on these things. We've seen cans fly down range or the range called cold, and somebody's got to go get their can that just launched down range. It does happen.
And it's normally a failure of the attachment device and whatever they're using in the back of the can.
Or some of the older styles, it looks like it's on properly, but the doohickey didn't latch or something, and now it's gone down range.
I hate to admit, because one of my favorite things is a 3-lug mount.
Yeah.
They're just cool.
Right.
There's,
classic.
You grab the MP5
right.
and slap and go, right?
Ho, 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 now I have a machine gun.
But it's really not a good mount system.
Right.
I like Sounds-Co ASR, but again, it's a little dated in the fact. Now they have added that ring at the bottom.
Yeah.
That when you put it on, you turn it to a lock position.
Mounts have gotten a lot better for sure.
But launching cans off a mount, unless people are around where you shoot suppressed firearms, that is not uncommon.
It's not at all, no.
I promise you, go to any shoot, and these don't have to be automatics. They could be on bolt guns, they could be on gas gun platforms,
right?
Whatever.
I had it happen to me a few years ago where there was enough carbon that had built up on the mount, and I'm stretching my brain to remember what it was now, where the latching mechanism did not engage because there was so much carbon on it. I guess I should clean it once in a while, and I got a couple rounds into it, and then I pulled the trigger, and it was like I had shot both barrels from a 10 gauge all at once. I'm like, what just happened? And sure enough, I'm looking. There's
out there.
Yeah, there's no can on the gun anymore. And then I realized that was an issue.
I fortunately have not had it happen.
Yeah. Right.
Been there when it happened.
Mm.
But in a lot of cases, if your gas system's set up to run suppressed, because a lot of people don't realize how much pressure change we're talking
gosh,
about.
Yes, yes.
You know, how much, what the change is in the gas system. It's enormous.
Yeah.
With your system, you're still in.
Right.
With most other systems, you know, the chances are at best 80-20. 80% you're out.
Yeah.
20% you might be able to keep working.
You're picking that compromise. You have to pick a compromise where you say, okay, in, you know, a certain percentage, call it 80% of all of these scenarios and configurations, this is going to be okay. But you're, by definition, giving up everything that's on either end of that compromise setting you've made.
Well, what I'm saying is even more than that.
Mm.
I'm saying 80% is against you.
Okay.
Because so many places now, like you alluded to earlier, they're going to more specialized rounds.
Right.
They're, you know.
Yep.
They're
and
matching,
the duty ammo is sometimes not the training ammo.
Right.
So you got a variation there.
But you know they're matching the duty round to the rifle to the suppressor. You know, now people are thinking more in package and system.
Mm-hmm.
So now we lose this. Now, say we lose the suppressor.
Yeah.
Okay. In whatever way. It may come down to the fact that you got to make a gas adjustment really quick,
Right.
just to get the gun to run.
Just to get it to run. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, of course, we can come up with all sorts of scenarios. Right. And I had a guy. I was in Georgia. I guess it was last week or week before last. We had one of these events. It was all military event that we went to for demonstration, and I had a guy come up to me and he basically said, you know, yeah, that's a really neat thing, but you know, I just can't see an application for it. For, you know, in his context was, you know, most regular military shooters. And you know, we talked a little bit and kind of went through it. I was like, okay, let's just say, you know, this regular shooter, military shooter you have in your mind, does he ever shoot from anything other than prone, kneeling, standing, barricade, you know, around a corner or anything like that, where you don't have the same body support for recoil that you do when you're in the prone? He said, well, of course, yeah, that's all the time. Okay, so there, right there is one easy application where even an unsuppressed weapon, I have an application for this gas system because I can reduce the recoil and the aiming disruption. In other words, the movement of my sights when I pull the trigger, when I don't have the opportunity to put that body support behind the gun that I would have in the prone position. Because now, you know, I'm having to lean and reach and do all these things. Just the fact that you have a suppressor on there is not the only reason why you need to be able to control the gas system on your gas-operated rifle.
Well,
there's so many benefits to it.
And how do I want to approach this? With the shit storm we're fixing to have on ammunition.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a saying, you'll hear me say it before the show's over. It's, guys, be prepared, not panic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We know Alliance not shipping commercial powder. Alliance not shipping for commercial ammunition, only shipping for military application. We know Lake City has moved all 100% of their production to military, and we're seeing more and more and more fall off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we're looking, we as an industry, okay,
right,
are looking everywhere for powders, looking for ways to keep plants running, right? I'm not going to call company names, but I know for a fact major, big companies are already running into problems.
Mm-hmm.
And talking to one of the engineers from one, he's like, we were talking about a particular product they offer that's normally outstanding product.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just one of those that it's a given.
Yeah.
You buy this, it's going to perform.
Sure.
And some of the stuff lately is not performing.
Mm.
And like, man, you know, the hell?
Right.
And he's like, dude, we can't get powders. We're having to change powders. We're having to try to mix powders.
Right.
We are trying to do this, that, and the other just to keep things on the market. Well, I don't go into that to try to sell ammo. I'm going into that for the fact that, you know, if you remember back during COVID, everybody was buying ammo from whatever you could get, whether it was Soviet, Serbian, you know, whatever.
Right.
And varying powders, varying weird bullet weights.
Anything you could get at that point.
Right.
And pay handsomely to do it.
Okay. I think I'm seeing people within the industry preparing for this again. Okay. There's only so much the ammunition companies can prepare. You know, I know that a lot of them are looking outside the country. You know, a couple of plants in Australia that used to produce a lot of powders, military grade powders, and you know, they burn to the ground. So you're getting a lot of stuff out of the Baltic states, Baltic region, and you know as well as I do, that's iffy at best.
There can be some questions there.
If you don't
Some of it's good. Some of
you don't
it's great.
believe me, ask Grand Thumb.
Yeah.
Or not Grand Kentucky Ballistics.
Kentucky Ballistics, yeah.
Some of that powder can get really weird.
Yeah.
So I get into all that to say this. There is realistically a point that we may need to be, just to keep our rifles running,
Right.
need to be just in a gas system every time we change ammo.
Yep. That's a real thing. I mean, that was the big reason why we got invited to this military shoot, was because of all of the different varieties of ammunition that they're trying to keep inventory on and using, all these different applications.
And, you know, we may be picking up, guys, I'm not saying this company does this, I'm just pulling names out. We may pick up a box of Federal and we're used to this box. We've shot this for 30 years and this is what it does and this is how it performs, and we get out there and it does something totally different. And oh shit, we need to make some adjustments for this.
Right.
Because now they're using a Serbian powder.
Yeah.
Just because they have to keep running.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're doing that.
Right.
I'm just...
Well, there's another company that is now out of business. I think they got bought out several years ago, but the brand is no longer in business. And there is all sorts of talk all over the internet. You can find this where over a few years' time, there was a radical change in the performance of their ammunition. And it went from kind of one extreme where everybody wanted it because it was, I don't want to say hot, but it was loaded like it should be for a military type ammo. And it got weaker and weaker and weaker, and people started having function problems with the guns. And that was during good times back then. This is probably 15 years ago now, where things just changed. Maybe the lawyers got involved or who knows what happened, but you had good ammo that just changed and got worse and worse and worse.
And, you know, with this product, and I'm not trying to give a sales pitch, but we're talking about practical application of a product. It gets you ahead of the curve at this point for what I think is going to be a realistic problem.
Right.
When we can't tailor our ammo anymore and reloading, forget it. Where are you going to get primers? Hell, if the company's trying to make the ammo can't get powder, where are you going to get it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been a reloader for a long time, and the last several years, I look at when you can find primers, what you have to pay for them versus what it costs to just buy a case of ammo.
Yeah.
The difference, there is a difference there still, but it's not what it used to be.
Unless you're loading big stuff like 338.
Sure. Oh, yeah, you can save a lot of money on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're loading blaster grade ammo, the incentive
not.
is not what it used to be. No.
But and I think it's a very realistic thing that we're going to see the ammo market get crappier and crappier and crappier. Right now, it's good. It's not bad right now.
Right.
That people can see. It's not bad on what I call the storefront.
Right.
The front-facing stuff consumers can see.
Now's a good time to buy 9mm ammo from what I've been seeing. It's about to go back up, I think, in a big way.
Well, we just had 5% May 1st. And I've gotten multiple emails over the last week saying, hey, dude, here's what we can do for you on some 9 right now. I promise you it's fixing to take a big hit.
Right.
So I mean, you can see there's cases stacked
Yeah.
up in here. I'm putting my money where my mouth
That's
is.
right. That's right.
And I tell people every week on this broadcast, you know, we're in a depressed market on a lot of goods in the firearms side right now, in the gun world. Certain ammunitions, or gas platform, AR platform rifles, things like that are in a depressed state. This is the time to buy.
Yes.
This is the time to buy.
Right. Heading into summer, you know it's going to get crazy. Election year.
You know, be prepared. That's preparing. That's not panicking.
Right.
Buy when it's a smart. It's like playing the stock market. Buy at the right time.
Right.
Not when everything's at a high premium.
Right.
But this little product right here, well, gas platform guns, and I say that because we can put it on 450 Bushmaster, we can put it on 300 Blackout, we can put it on
any centerfire cartridge,
whatever. And keeping the gun running becomes much less of an issue. Much less of an issue.
Right. And your gun's going to last longer. You know, that's another big thing that these military procurement folks are looking at is if we can make the entire system last longer, we're replacing fewer parts, we're having fewer breakdowns, you know, fewer outages of the gun, it's in service longer. Well, I can pay for this system just by enhancing and increasing the service life of this weapon.
Right. If this lasts longer than 3 cheaper ones,
sure. We get that frequently. It says, "Well, yeah, I bought this and I used it for a while, and then it was so, carboned up or seized up or whatever that when it came time to get a new barrel, I just threw the gas block away and bought another one, for some set screw type adjustables." Well, you won't have that issue with this thing.
And I like the fact that we haven't talked about is it's drilled for a cross pin.
Yep, cross pin is included with every kit.
A lot of people say, "Oh, that ain't necessarily that good."
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you something. 2 screws and a cross pin. Yes, and that's something I appreciate. Is the fact from a guy that used to use these in heated moments, we'll say. To be building and designing guns,
right,
and working on things today.
Yep.
And that shows your thinking, and this is designed to work.
Yes. Well, really kind of a perfect set of circumstances that led into this thing where, as I said, I had been in the field of military weapons programs for a number of years that led up to this. And one of my former jobs was managing or writing or determining compliance with the requirements documents for military weapons. So, when a new weapon or new accessory, anything is being developed nowadays, there is a written document that says it absolutely must do these things. We want it to also do these things, but it's got to do these. And under no circumstances can it do these things down here. So you've got your thresholds, which are what you have to do, your objectives, or what we would like to do, and then you've got things that you have to avoid, problems that you have to avoid as well. There'll be service life requirements or maintenance intervals or all this stuff. So before this project ever started, there was an actual written requirements document that said it's got to outlast any major part on the gun. Service life has got to be, beyond any part. Maintenance has to be less than any other part. I said 1 drop of oil when you oil your bolt carrier group. So you're already doing maintenance there. You're already putting oil on it. All we're doing is adding 1 drop here in a different spot. So we've essentially added very, very close to no maintenance whatsoever on this system. And it's got to be survivable and simple. And
you've hit that.
We hit every single threshold, almost every objective that I had for the program. And to this day, I'm thinking a little bit here to make sure I'm saying this right. We have never had a single customer who could damage or destroy the gas control through either normal use or abuse. Now, we've had some guys who have damaged the spring in it because they put it together wrong or whatnot. But, that's a 30-second swap to fix that, and I'll send them out one for free.
It's hard to put it in wrong.
Well, exactly. The only way you can put it in wrong is if you just deliberately just don't read the instructions at all and try to do it. It's just so
Or
simple.
a little too much whiskey.
But or that yeah, it does happen. So we'll send them a new spring, no big deal. But it's tremendously simple. And the big thing is, I like to sum it up by saying, even if it is a little more expensive than anything else out there, it is going to improve the shooting experience so much that those of us, either the guys who do it professionally, who, when I say shooting experience, that's something they need, to those of us who are just recreational shooters these days
That want to enjoy it.
that want to enjoy it, well, we need to enjoy that shooting experience too. We have different needs. We're kind of approaching it from different angles, but it's important for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, neither one of us are operating in this environment anymore.
Right?
Now we shoot at that ferocious paper and steel.
That's right. That's right.
We shoot them steel bad guys.
Them steel bad guys, yeah.
But Kyle, we've been going for 2 hours.
That's awesome. I love
It's
it.
cool.
Adrian Hilliard said, "Sounds like a challenge."
Do it. Do your worst.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
So quickly, the very first, I shouldn't say the very first, before we went to launch, we did destructive testing. The goal was, whatever it takes, we did this with a number of units, but we had one we picked that was like the whipping boy. And so whatever it takes, we're going to destroy this one. Not only could we not destroy it, but after, I'm trying to think how many barrels and muzzle brakes and suppressors and everything else we destroyed in the process, but somewhere around 14,000 rounds.
Goodness.
It was still going strong, 100%. We loaned it to the local SWAT team. They kept it for about 6 months, put thousands of rounds through it. They couldn't hurt it, sent it back, and I sent that exact unit. I've done no maintenance, no parts changes, nothing on this thing. I sent it to Adam Johnson at the NFA Review channel. He does suppressor reviews and all this on YouTube, and he's got a full auto M4.
Let me say this. He's one of the few people I would recommend that people listen to.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good review videos on there.
That guy shoots it straight. And, yes, this is going to be on YouTube, and I tell people the reason this show was ever born is because of the idiots on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
But let me just throw that. I hate to
Sure,
interrupt you.
no, that's all right.
NFA Review, they know what's up.
Yeah.
The guy's solid.
He's still got it.
The
The same one that we tried to destroy, that we sent to the SWAT team that they couldn't destroy, literally the very same unit I sent to him in, I guess it was mid-2021, and he has been shooting on his full auto. You see it in a bunch of his videos where he's shooting that full auto lower with all these different cans that he's got on there. He's got a rifle speed gas control on there that has got to be over 30-something thousand rounds on it by now. And I say, man, send me that thing back. I'll give you a brand new one. I want to cut it in half and see what it looks like inside there now. And he says, nope, it's still running perfectly. I'm going to keep shooting it until it dies. So who knows when that's going to happen. But it's still going, at this point, for years now.
That works.
Yep.
Well, it's simple.
Right.
Simple. Look, I hate to say it, but look at the Glock pistol.
Yeah.
How many rounds does it take to kill it?
Oh, gosh.
Don't know.
Yeah, right.
I shot there 4.5 years.
Yeah.
I've never killed one.
Yeah.
And it was free ammo I got paid to shoot.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't kill it.
Yeah.
But Kyle, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's one of the most fun shows I've done in a while.
It's been awesome. We got to talk D-Day, some history there, some
Yes.
reverence. We got to talk D-Day guns. We got to talk rifle speed, a little bit of the evolution kind of in between.
Right.
That's a whole lot of fun subject too that we could spend a lot of time on. But this has been good.
I want to get you back, when you have the time, because I know you've got a busy schedule.
Sure.
And, we may, get you and I together and we may talk about and show a little more of the evolution in history.
Sure.
And, I think from the hand signal Stephanie was giving me, that, we had a lot of viewers coming in then and, seeming to enjoy it.
Sure.
A lot of people catch it in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a few hundred views tonight.
Mm-hmm.
By tomorrow night, we'll probably be 3,000.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of people that listen to this on their commutes.
Right.
But I hope I can get you back for the show.
Sure.
And I hope we can get together and do a shooting video.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
We'll do some gas guns. I'll bring a couple of bolt guns.
I want to shoot that raptor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta pull the raptor apart and change it to one of these. Donations are gladly accepted.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got it.
Kyle, thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Guys, I know we went for a long time tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I'm not trying to do a hard sell for the rifle speed. I'm telling you guys what I believe in, just like I always do. The main reason the Raptor hasn't went is honestly, God, I got to switch it over.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be so much better, especially with the Raptor.
Yeah.
Because I'm going from that 250 grain bullet at 2200, and I'm dropping it back to a 400 grain bullet at 1050.
Mm-hmm. Huge difference.
You don't think there's going to be some pressure difference?
Oh, yeah.
On a 12-inch barrel?
Right. Perfect.
This is the product I need to make that run.
Right.
So anyway, we kind of geek out on some things. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna be trying to get Kyle back. We'll be, if we have to do rifle speed commercials to get him here, we will. Get him out on the range with us and do some shooting with the Raptor, both with the AR and let you try the bolt guns out.
Right.
Guys, thank you very much. Remember, people on D-Day bled and died knowing these guys knew they were walking into a meat grinder.
Right.
And they went anyway. Can we measure up? Can we measure up? Think about that. And as always, God bless America and God bless you. And I can't. This is more.